Aloha, I'm Reverend Tim Lytle, Senior Minister here at Unity Church of Hawaii in Honolulu. And we are so grateful for all of you who watch us on our YouTube channel. We know with you that as you view these teachings and apply them to your lives, that it helps to build your life into the very best one that can be imagined. If you're ever in the area, please come and join us for a service, and please enjoy the message that you're about to watch. Aloha. Well, I believe in miracles. Do you? Yes? And by a miracle, I mean the power of God, the experience of the divine presence in any circumstance. So it's a miracle every day, every moment when I recognize the presence of God. But what I find is that we are sometimes limited in our thinking. Well, let me back up. We are almost always limited in our thinking because of programming, because of conditioning, because of certain thought patterns that we've gotten into, because of certain tendencies that we grew up with. Some of us were taught that we could not accomplish a certain thing. I remember when I was in high school, and I told a teacher of mine that I planned to go to college. And she laughed and said, "How are you going to go to college?" Have you sometimes gotten those messages that somehow something was not possible? That somehow what you dreamed could not happen? Pardon me. Maybe our weed whacker friend is stirring something up for me. It's okay. I bless him. And so, imagination is the power of the month which unlocks the potential of what we can achieve in our lives. It's up to us what we imagine. What do you imagine in life? Let's see, we have some children here. So I need to tell you that at some point I will have a service that will be uncut and uncensored. Well, I'll say the things that come to me to say, but that I hold back in regular services. So I'll keep you in mind and tell you about when that service comes up. So I'll just tell you a little story about my friend Barry Bernard, who is on the board of Unity Worldwide Ministries along with me and several others. And he knew of a young man who was going to different places applying for jobs. But no one would hire him. He had the qualifications. He had lots of skills. He could not understand why in every interview he had, he was never hired. And so he talked to somebody about, why is it that I cannot get hired? And they said, well, maybe it has to do with the tattoo that is on your forehead. Now, I need to be careful here. But the tattoo on his forehead said, blank the world. Blank starts with F. So in bold letters on his forehead. And they suggested, maybe that has something to do with the difficulty in getting a job. Now, we laugh at that because it sounds ludicrous. But many of us carry with us attitudes which go before us, and we wonder why we're not getting different results. Everything is by right of consciousness. And what we hold in our consciousness goes before us and clears the way for us. But it's up to you what to hold in consciousness. You can hold negative thinking, and some people do. And that's fine if you wish to do that. Honestly, it's fine. Now, I'm not interested in hearing about it. Seriously. But that's okay if that's what you want to focus on. But what happens when we have negative thinking? Like, oh, everybody's against me, or I can never do anything right, or why am I so stupid, or blah, blah, blah. And what life shows up and supports that affirmation, it's a type of affirmation, it says, oh, okay, I'll support you in that. And that person receives exactly what they are knowing and believing and said, I knew it. I knew that's the way life was. Another person will see the possibilities and the glory and be thankful and grateful for each moment and see the presence of God in each thing and know that nothing is impossible for them. That person is also right. Either way, you're right. It's up to you. It's up to your consciousness. Brats, there's no excuses. That's why some people come to Unity and go, I'd rather go somewhere where I can have an excuse. Yeah. You know, it's up to us what we create in our lives, and imagination is one of the biggest keys as to what we want to create in our lives. Allow your imagination to go, to flourish. When I was a child, I was often told, it's just your imagination, Timmy. And I thought, well, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with imagination? Nothing. Imagination is one of the languages of spirit. One of the languages of spirit to speak to us and talk with us, to show us what is possible. Albert Einstein said that imagination is more important than knowledge. And it's by imagination that Albert Einstein was able to do some thought exercises and come up with his amazing theories. Yeah? I mean, imagine. Imagination is powerful. I see some World Cup t-shirts here. Yeah? Yeah, which country? I thought it looked like Colombia. Yeah? Viva Colombia! How about this one? Same? Colombia? Okay. Colombia? Yeah? The whole group? What? Okay, we have t-shirts at home too, and I thought they look like Colombia, you know? It's so good to have you here. Mucho gusto. I remember in Wichita, I would sometimes, I love soccer, and I used to play with Russians in Wichita. There's a Russian community there. And man, they play for blood. They're not messing around, you know. I thought, okay. So I used the power of imagination to imagine what it would be like to play with some really good soccer players who play really rough and tumble soccer. And I imagined myself fully competent and able to play with the best of them. And that's what I did. Now, at times they would ask me, are you okay? You know, because they do something particularly mean and vicious. I'd say, is that all you got? Bring it on. So, use the power of imagination. They were upset that they hadn't hurt my feelings. Use the power of imagination to create your world. Then you put into play the power of will. Making a decision about how to follow up on what you are imagining. You use the power of order to sequence the steps that you will take. For example, if you want to be a medical doctor, you might consider going to school. right? You start looking at the first baby steps and taking those steps. So, as I've said before, when I was in college, I was I've gone through different phases. So I went through this phase where I wasn't talking to hardly anybody, but I knew that I had this calling, this push from Spirit to be a minister. And so I thought, what better way to learn to speak than to go to the Union Rescue Mission? Where half of the people are not sober, and it's a great opportunity to learn my communication skills, right? So take those practical steps. Take those steps that can help you to move forward in your journey. Use affirmations. Repeat after me. I am the presence of God in action. Nothing is impossible for me. Now that was a combination of an affirmation and a denial. Pardon me. The affirmation is, I am the presence of God. The denial is, therefore nothing is impossible for me. And Jesus said this. I'm not making this stuff up. Jesus was a great New Thought teacher. Have you heard of him? Do you know him? He was radical. He was radical. I think that'd make a good lesson series. The radical teachings of Jesus. He had some amazing ones. Here's one of them from Matthew chapter 17, verse 20. Jesus said, yes, you speak it out. I love the enthusiasm. Give me my binky now. Jesus said, if you say to this mountain, be removed into the sea, it shall be removed. That Greek word, it's in the command imperative tense. Be removed. It's a command. Sometimes you hear metaphysical teachers say, cancel, if there's some negative thought or energy. Well, Jesus used the word be removed. And if we believe, Jesus said, it shall be moved. And then he goes on in that same verse and says, and nothing shall be impossible for you. Jesus taught this stuff. Nothing shall be impossible for you. As we hear in many passages about Jesus, people would come to Jesus with these incurable diseases or physical problems, and they would be healed, and Jesus would say, your faith has healed you. So all of this is possible for us. Paul wrote, while he was in jail, the book of Philippians, chapter 4, verse 13. In many translations, it says, I can do all things through Christ, who strengthens me. In the original, it doesn't use Christ, although that concept is there. Literally, it says, I can do all things through the one who strengthens me. We each have that presence, that divine presence within us. Each one of us. So, here's your assignment for this week. Okay? You're going to look in the mirror each day this week. I'm using hypnotherapy here. Every day this week. When you look in the mirror, you will say and repeat after me, I am a miracle, and I'm good looking too. So say that, yeah, I know. Just say it every day, looking in the mirror. I am a miracle, and I'm good looking too. You are a miracle. Each and every one of us is a miracle. Some have asked about my brother. I have a brother in Wichita who recently had a major stroke. Paralyzed one side of his body, lost his speech. He worked hard in rehab. He got to where he was able to walk some with assistance, went home, had another major stroke, wiped all of that out, went back into the hospital, is now in outpatient rehab. He's determined to walk. And while I was there last week, I saw him walking with a walker. They lightly hold on to the gait belt just to make sure, but he's walking. I do believe in miracles because what we set our intention on is what we bring about in our lives. Your experience of life is up to you by right of consciousness. Believe it. Know it. Allow your imagination to be big enough. Now, go back to the young man applying for jobs. What is the consciousness that you bring with you? Did you know people can read it? It's even bigger than tattoo on the forehead. Your consciousness goes before you. What are you bringing into the world? What do you bring to a job interview? What do you bring to a marriage? What do you bring with you to church? I found out that people do not leave their baggage at home when they come to church. Isn't that amazing? People bring their baggage with them, all their stuff. We're like an emergency room. You know, we're not here for the well. We're here for all of us who are on this path getting more and more well. And sometimes in an emergency room, you see some stuff that's like, oh my goodness. I remember a doctor saying to me in the hospital, working in the hospital, being a doctor would be great if it wasn't for the patients. You know, I mean, that's what you're going to get if you're a doctor. Each one of us brings with us a consciousness and establishes that consciousness. What is the miracle that you want to see in your life? What is it? Just think about that a moment. What is the miracle? Is it healing in a relationship? Is it healing in some venue, some area? Is it some sort of physical healing? Is it to draw closer to God? As Jesus said, be it done to you according to your belief. Be it done to you according to your belief. Do not give up. Do not despair. The power of imagination creates amazing inventions and creates amazing lives. I believe in miracles. You are a miracle. I am a miracle. And we are doing this together to make a world that works for everybody. Aloha.